What if I told you there was a simple, almost cost-free method to make your garden thrive? A method that could end your reliance on expensive bags and bottles of fertilizer forever. It sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Yet, this is a genuine practice, a technique honed over generations by Korean farmers who understood something fundamental about the earth. They knew the secret wasn't in adding chemicals, but in harnessing the invisible life already present in the soil. This is a method so effective and sustainable that the large corporations selling you synthetic fertilizers would rather you never heard about it. After all, if you can create your own garden fertility for pennies, why would you ever buy their products again? This remarkable technique is known as Indigenous Microorganism, or IMO, a cornerstone of Korean natural farming. It's a beautifully simple concept. You collect the beneficial microbes, the bacteria, fungi, and yeasts that are native to your specific location, and then you encourage them to multiply. These are the very organisms that have evolved to thrive in your local climate and soil conditions. Instead of importing generic factory-made solutions, you cultivate your own bespoke team of microscopic gardeners. The process is straightforward, requiring little more than some cooked rice, sugar, and a bit of patience. It's a quiet rebellion against the industrialization of our gardens, a return to working with nature, not against it. Imagine a garden that largely looks after itself, with soil that gets richer and more alive each year. Picture plants that are more resilient to pests and diseases, and vegetables that have a depth of flavor you haven't tasted in years. This is the promise of IMO. The big fertilizer companies have built a business model on dependency. They sell you products that provide a quick chemical fix, but often degrade the soil's natural structure and kill off the very microbial life that creates long-term health. This creates a cycle where you need more and more of their products just to maintain the same results. IMO breaks that cycle, empowering you to create a self-sustaining ecosystem right in your own backyard. This isn't some fleeting garden trend. It's a profound shift in how we view the soil. It's about seeing the earth not as a sterile medium to hold plants up, but as a living, breathing entity teeming with life. For too long, we've been taught to sterilize, sanitize, and control every aspect of our gardens. We've been led to believe that we must be the sole providers of our plants' nutrition. The truth is, nature has already perfected this system over millions of years. Our job as gardeners is not to replace that system, but to support and nurture it. This essay will guide you, step by step, on how to do just that. It's time to unlock the hidden power beneath your feet. For decades, we have been encouraged to feed our plants with synthetic fertilizers. These usually come in brightly colored packaging, promising bigger blooms and larger harvests, and in the short term, they often deliver. These products are like a sugary energy drink for your plants, providing a quick hit of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, NPK. This forces rapid, often weak growth. However, this convenience comes at a significant long-term cost to the most precious asset in your garden, the soil itself. These synthetic chemicals are often harsh salts that can disrupt the delicate balance of the soil ecosystem, much like a loud noise can disrupt a quiet library. Think of your soil as a bustling city, populated by billions of microscopic citizens. These are the bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes that work tirelessly to break down organic matter, unlock nutrients, and make them available to your plants. This is the soil food web, a complex and vital system. Synthetic fertilizers bypass this entire system. They deliver water-soluble nutrients directly to the plant's roots, effectively making the microbial workforce redundant. Over time, with nothing to do and a hostile chemical environment, this microbial population dwindles and dies off. The soil loses its structure, becoming compacted, lifeless, and prone to erosion. It becomes a dead medium, entirely dependent on chemical inputs for any productivity. This dependency is precisely what the fertilizer industry thrives on. When your soil is dead, you have no choice but to keep buying their products. It's a brilliant business model, but a terrible one for our gardens and the planet. This lifeless soil can't hold water effectively, leading to runoff that carries those same synthetic chemicals into our waterways, causing pollution and algal blooms. The plants grown in this depleted soil are also weaker. They may look big and green, but they lack the full spectrum of micronutrients that a living soil provides, making them more susceptible to attack from pests and diseases. This, in turn, leads you to buy more products, pesticides and fungicides. The solution is to stop treating the soil like dirt and start treating it as the living ecosystem it is. The goal is to bring it back to life, to repopulate that underground city with its diverse and hard-working inhabitants. This is where indigenous microorganisms come into play. By reintroducing a thriving, locally adapted microbial community, you restart the natural engine of your soil. These microbes will get to work creating humus, improving soil structure, retaining moisture, and, most importantly, feeding your plants the way nature intended. A living soil is a resilient soil, and a resilient soil grows healthy, nutrient-dense plants with minimal intervention from you, the gardener. The first stage of this wonderful process is all about collecting the local microbes that are already living around you. We call this initial collection IMO 1. The best place to find a rich diversity of these organisms is in an area of established, undisturbed woodland or a mature hedgerow. Look for a spot where leaves have been left to decompose naturally for years. The ground here will be covered in a thick layer of leaf litter, and just beneath it, you will often find a beautiful white, web-like substance. This is mycelium, the vegetative part of fungi, and it's a clear sign that you have found a place teeming with microbial life. This is the gold you are looking for. To collect these microbes, you will need a few simple things: a small wooden or bamboo box. Avoid plastic or metal as they can sweat and react. Some freshly steamed rice, a breathable cloth or paper towel, and some string. Cook the rice so it is slightly firm, not mushy, and let it cool. Fill your box about 2/3 full with the rice, packing it down gently. The rice acts as a perfect food source, a welcoming buffet for the hungry microbes. Once your box is filled, cover the top with the paper towel or cloth and secure it with the string. This covering allows air to circulate but prevents insects and debris from falling in. Now, take your box of rice to the spot you identified in the woods or hedgerow. Gently push aside the top layer of leaves and find that rich, dark layer of humus underneath. Nestle your box into the ground so that the top is level with the soil surface. You want the microbes to be able to easily find their way in. Place some of the leaves back over the box to protect it from rain and direct sunlight, and mark the spot so you can find it again. Then, you simply leave it alone. For the next 5 to 7 days, nature will do the work. The local fungi and bacteria, attracted by the rice, will move in and begin to colonize it. After about a week, it's time to retrieve your collection. When you open the box, you should see a beautiful sight. The rice will be covered in a bloom of molds, which might be white, yellow, or even reddish in color. A fluffy white coating is ideal, as this indicates a strong presence of beneficial fungi. You may see some black or green spots, which are less desirable, but a small amount is perfectly normal. The whole thing should have a sweet, fermented smell, a bit like a brewery or fresh bread. If it smells foul or putrid, something has gone wrong, and it's best to discard it and start again. Congratulations, you have successfully created IMO 1. Now that you have collected your precious IMO 1, a rice cake teeming with dormant local microbes, the next step is to wake them up and encourage them to multiply. We are turning our small collection into a vast army of soil helpers. This stage creates what is known as IMO 2. For this, you will need your block of colonized rice, IMO 1, and an equal weight of some form of unrefined sugar. Brown sugar, jaggery, or even black treacle work wonderfully. The sugar is a quick and easy food source that will give the microbes the energy they need to come out of dormancy and start reproducing rapidly. It's the starter pistol for their population explosion. Find a large glass or ceramic jar, again, avoid metal, and break up your IMO 1 into small pieces with your hands. Add the crumbled IMO 1 to the jar. Now, add the equal weight of brown sugar. For example, if you have 500 grams of IMO 1, you will add 500 grams of sugar. Gently mix them together with your hands, making sure the sugar is well distributed. The sugar will begin to draw moisture out of the rice through osmosis. and you will see the mixture slowly transform into a dark, syrupy liquid over the next few days. This process is essentially creating a stable, preserved culture of your indigenous microbes. Cover the mouth of the jar with a breathable cloth, just as you did with the collection box. This is crucial because the fermentation process is aerobic, meaning it needs oxygen. A sealed lid could cause pressure to build up and, more importantly, would favor the growth of anaerobic and often smelly bacteria, which is not what we want. Store the jar in a cool, dark place, like a cupboard or a garden shed, away from direct sunlight. Over the next week, the mixture will bubble and ferment as the microbes feast on the sugar. You can give it a gentle stir every couple of days to keep things active. After about a week, the bubbling will subside, and you will be left with a dark, sweet-smelling liquid. This is your completed IMO 2. It is a potent, concentrated and shelf-stable culture of your local microbes. You can store this in its jar, still covered with a breathable cloth, in a cool, dark place for up to a year. A little goes a very long way. This jar is your microbial mother culture. From this, you can go on to create vast quantities of soil amendment. You have successfully captured, preserved, and prepared your own personal army of microscopic gardeners, ready for deployment. With your potent IMO 2 mother culture ready, it's time to prepare the final product for use in your garden. This involves two more simple stages, IMO 3 and IMO 4. IMO 3 is a process of expanding your microbial culture onto a larger substrate. You will need a carbon-rich material, something like wheat bran, rice bran, or even spent grain from a brewery. For every 1 part of your IMO 2 liquid, you will mix it with 1 part water, and then combine this with about 500 parts of your bran. So, if you use a tablespoon of IMO 2, mix it with a tablespoon of water, and then add this to roughly 500 tablespoons of bran. In a large container or on a clean tarpaulin, place your dry bran. Gradually add your diluted IMO 2 mixture, turning and mixing thoroughly with your hands. The goal is to achieve a moisture content of about 60 to 65%. A simple way to test this is the squeeze test. Grab a handful of the mixture and squeeze it firmly. If a little water seeps out between your fingers, it's just right. If water streams out, it's too wet. Add more dry bran. If it crumbles apart with no moisture, it's too dry. Add a little more water. Once mixed, pile the bran into a heap. Cover it with damp hessian sacks or old towels, and leave it to ferment for about a week in a sheltered spot. During this week, the microbes will multiply throughout the bran, consuming the nutrients and generating heat. The pile should heat up to around 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. You will need to turn the pile every couple of days to regulate the temperature and ensure all parts of the mixture are colonized evenly. If it gets too hot, it can kill the beneficial microbes. After about a week, the pile will cool down, and it will be covered in the same white mycelium you saw on your original rice collection. It will have a wonderfully sweet, earthy smell. This finished product is IMO 3. You can use it directly on your garden. But for the best, most stable soil amendment, we take one final step to create IMO 4. To make IMO 4, you simply mix your finished IMO 3 with an equal volume of good quality soil or mature compost. Mix 1 part IMO 3 with 1 part soil. This step stabilizes the microbes and introduces them to the material they will eventually be living in. Moisten the mixture as before, pile it up, cover it, and leave it for another week. This final fermentation period creates a rich, crumbly, and incredibly biologically active soil amendment. This IMO 4 is the ultimate soil conditioner. You can now apply it to your garden beds, potting mixes, and around your fruit trees, introducing a powerful and diverse community of local microbes directly into the root zone of your plants. Seeing is believing, as they say in gardening. To truly understand the power of this method, I decided to run a simple side-by-side trial on my own allotment. I divided one of my main vegetable beds, a plot measuring about 4 meters by 2 meters, directly in half with a sturdy plank of wood. The soil on both sides was identical, having been treated the same way for years. On the left-hand side, I continued with my previous routine, a biannual dressing of a well-known, balanced organic granular fertilizer bought from the garden center. It was a good quality product, one I had used for years, with what I thought were perfectly acceptable results. On the right-hand side, I did something different. I forked in a generous helping of my homemade IMO 4, which I had prepared using microbes collected from the old oak woodland bordering the allotments. I worked about a bucketful into the top few inches of soil. I then planted both sides with exactly the same crops: a row of Boltadi beetroot, a row of autumn king carrots, and a patch of Loloroso lettuce. All seedlings were from the same batch, planted on the same day, and received the same amount of water throughout the season. The only difference was the soil preparation, one side fed by the bag, the other by the microbes. The initial differences were subtle. For the first few weeks, the fertilizer-fed plants on the left actually looked a little greener and grew slightly faster. This is that familiar chemical rush I spoke of earlier. However, by midsummer, a noticeable shift began to occur. The plants on the IMO-fed side on the right developed a deeper, richer green color. They looked sturdier, more robust. When we had a dry spell for a fortnight in July, the lettuces on the fertilized side began to wilt and bolt quite quickly, whereas the lettuce on the IMO side remained turgid and productive for much longer. The soil on the right just seemed to hold onto moisture far more effectively. The final harvest was the most telling part. The carrots from the IMO plot were not necessarily larger, but they were straighter, with fewer splits and less pest damage. The beetroot were a similar size on both sides, but the flavor was where the real difference lay. Those from the IMO side had an intense, earthy sweetness that the others lacked. Most strikingly, when I dug over the beds at the end of the season, the soil on the left was good, but the soil on the right was exceptional. It was darker, more crumbly, and absolutely teeming with earthworms. The soil structure had visibly improved in just one season. The microbes hadn't just fed the plants, they had fed the soil itself. The benefits of embracing a living soil philosophy extend far beyond simply saving money on fertilizer. What you are doing is building resilience directly into the fabric of your garden. A soil rich in microbial life is a soil that can better withstand the challenges that nature throws at it. For instance, the vast network of fungal hyphae, part of the microbial community you are cultivating, acts like a sponge. It dramatically improves the soil's ability to absorb and retain water. This means your garden becomes more drought-resistant, requiring less frequent watering from you and better able to cope with increasingly erratic weather patterns. This is a tremendous advantage in our changing climate. Furthermore, a healthy soil food web is your garden's first line of defense against pests and diseases. Many of the beneficial microbes you cultivate actively outcompete pathogenic organisms for space and resources, creating a protective barrier around your plant's roots. Some fungi even form symbiotic relationships with the roots, extending their reach and helping them access water and nutrients they couldn't get on their own, in exchange for sugars from the plant. This creates stronger, healthier plants from the ground up. A healthy plant, just like a healthy person, is far less likely to succumb to illness. You will find your reliance on chemical sprays diminishes as your soil health improves. And then there is the flavor. This is perhaps the most rewarding aspect for anyone who grows their own food. Synthetic fertilizers provide a limited menu of nutrients, leading to fast but often bland growth. A living soil, however, provides a full-course banquet. The billions of microbes are constantly breaking down complex organic matter and minerals in the soil, releasing a huge spectrum of micronutrients, trace elements, and beneficial compounds. Your plants absorb this full complex diet, and you can taste the difference. Tomatoes become more intensely savory, carrots become sweeter, and herbs become more aromatic. You are not just growing food, you are growing nutrition and flavor. Ultimately, this practice fosters a deeper connection with your garden. It shifts your role from being a chemical administrator to being a custodian of life. You start to pay more attention to the health of the soil, to its texture, its smell, and the creatures that live within it. It encourages a more holistic and observant approach to gardening. You are no longer just growing plants. You are cultivating an ecosystem. This sense of partnership with nature is profoundly satisfying. It empowers you, making you an independent and resourceful gardener who can create abundance from the simplest of materials, right from your own environment. We stand at a crossroads in gardening. We can continue down the path of chemical dependency, treating our soil like an inert substance and our gardens like outdoor factories, forever reliant on purchased inputs. Or we can choose a different way. We can choose to see our gardens as living, dynamic ecosystems and ourselves as facilitators of that life. The Indigenous Microorganism method is more than just a technique for making free fertilizer. It is a gateway to this new perspective. It is a practical, hands-on way to divorce yourself from the industrial food system and reclaim your garden's sovereignty. This is an act of empowerment. I encourage you, with all my heart, to give this a try. Don't be intimidated by the different stages or the new terminology. At its core, this is a beautifully simple and forgiving process. Start small. Collect some microbes from a local wild space. Make your first batch of IMO and test it on a single pot or a small patch of your garden. Observe the results for yourself. Feel the texture of the resulting soil in your hands. Smell its sweet, earthy aroma. I am confident that, like me, you will be astonished by the results. You have nothing to lose and a world of living soil to gain. Once you have seen the benefits firsthand, don't keep this secret to yourself. This is knowledge that needs to be shared. Tell your neighbors, show your friends at the allotment, and explain the process to fellow gardeners at the local garden club. The more people who break free from the cycle of chemical fertilizers, the healthier our gardens, our communities, and our planet will become. This is a grassroots movement in the truest sense of the word, a quiet revolution that starts in our own backyards, one handful of living soil at a time. You are not just improving your garden, you are becoming part of a solution. So, let's begin. Let's step outside and look at our gardens with new eyes. Let's see the potential for life, not just in the plants we grow, but in the very ground beneath them. Let's stop feeding the plants and start feeding the soil. For in the health of the soil lies the health of everything that grows within it. Take that first step. Gather your simple materials and begin the rewarding journey of bringing your soil back to vibrant, teeming life. The revolution is quiet, it is microbial, and it starts today with you. Happy gardening.